The Cincinnati Bengals now have 2 of the 10 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL after giving Jamar Chase and T. Higgins new 4-year contracts. Chase, 4 years for $161 million. T. Higgins, 4 years for $115 million. Here to break it all down and why it was important to bring both of them back is Dalton Wasserman. So Dalton, let's start off with the big one. Jamar Chase, now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, making over $40 million a year. Why do you need him back?
I mean, look, obviously, anytime somebody makes $40 million a season, anybody's going to ask, okay, is he really worth that much, right? And then is it worth paying another, close to $30 million receiver in T. Higgins in the same exact offense, right? But when you have these two guys and you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, you have a chance to win any game. It does not matter. Obviously, their defense needs to be better, but they still went 9-8, even with the defense that they had. The offensive line was a bottom 5 unit again, the lack of a running game, but the fact that they have Burrow, Chase, and Higgins alone gives them a chance to win games. So why is Jamar Chase worth all that money? I think the best way to put this is that you can use him anywhere in the formation, any level of the field, anywhere, anytime, right? He's kind of the ultimate. Sean Payton talks about wanting jokers in his offense. Jamar Chase is the ultimate joker, right? He's not only talented, but they've really maximized how to use him anywhere on the football field. So let's start here with the fact that he can exceed at an elite level out wide or in the slot, right? These are, you talk about a movable piece, that Z receiver that everybody talks about, 93.2 receiving grade this past season out wide, 8th in the NFL, 14th in slot grade at 83.7. Led the league in catches in both because, while obviously high volume target, he won the Triple Crown, so he's going to lead the league, in several categories. First in receiving yards out wide, 12th in the slot. Even if you just played him in the slot, he'd be the best slot receiver in football if he got that level of volume of guys like CeeDee Lamb and Puka Nacua plays a lot in there. Jackson Smith-Njigba plays a lot in there. But Jamar would probably still be the best slot receiver in football. So I talk about, again, anywhere, anytime. This is pre-snap. This is in the formation. Okay. Now we talk about attacking all levels of the field. We know he's got speed. We know he's got ability after the catch. How do we quantify all of this? Okay. 2024, we look at deep receiving grade, 97.7, 19th in the NFL, right? And you're talking about a category where a lot of guys finish with a perfect 99.9 if they're efficient enough on deep balls. But still, top 20 on the deep ball, even with teams knowing that the Bengals are throwing darn near every play, right? Because they don't have a ton of balance in their offense. Intermediate, you think about possession receivers. You think about guys like T. Higgins even. We'll get into that later. 17th in the NFL in receiving grade. Short game, 0 to 9 yards, right? Under 10 yards, you're running slants, finding your way open in zone coverage, making things happen after the catch. 9th in the NFL, and even behind the line of scrimmage, right? Jamar Chase, a guy you can use on screens. They've even occasionally put him in the backfield, right? Talking about a guy who takes advantage of yards after catch. And when I was looking at this, you find out at all 4 levels of the field, Jamar Chase was the only receiver in the NFL to rank inside the top 20 at all 4 levels of the field. The fact that he can do anything at any depth and beat any defender, linebacker, corner, safeties, any route, any level of the field, make things happen after the catch in the short game, that makes him special. Nobody else does it at all levels of the field like Jamar does. And the last thing that you notice this year, okay, I want to point something out here. It used to be, and in part because Joe Burrow likes it this way, it used to be that Burrow said, listen, I want less motion in this offense. I want to just go 5 wide. Let me read the defense. Because I would argue that Burrow is the best pre-snap processor in the NFL. I would make that argument. So he wanted the defense stagnant. He wanted the still shot. But this year, they started adding Chase in motion more in this offense. He went in motion on pass plays in 2024 more than he did in his first 3 years combined, Max. Okay, so you're talking about 105 reps in 2024, only 95 in the previous 3 years combined. And look at the efficiency. 3rd in receiving grade, most receptions in the NFL regular season this year when he was put in motion, and 3rd in yards. You're talking about really the only guy on the same level of efficiency as him is Puka Nacua for the Rams. So when you're talking about a guy who can play pre-snap anywhere, who can attack any level of the field, and now they're putting him in motion and finding him dynamic ways to get on the move first and get Joe Burrow a pre-snap read of the defense. You're talking about a guy who really is that X factor in an offense, the wild card who can do anything you want him to at any time.
Absolutely. So let's get into some plays of Jamar Chase and what makes him such a valuable piece in this Bengals offense. So obviously making over $40 million a year. What are some plays that you want to show us that show how valuable Jamar Chase is?
For sure. We're going to put the last 2 parts of this together especially, right? So we got 4 plays here. I'm just going to show you the pre-snap looks because we know obviously Jamar creates explosive plays, and I'll get into how that's done after. So Pre-snap here, we've got Jamar Chase down here, okay, with T. Higgins first of all. All right, and the hard part of this is pre-snap. If you're going to get Jamar and T on the same side, you really can't go man-to-man, right? It's just not possible. Defenses aren't structured to have two receivers this good in man-to-man situations. But what you're going to get here from Jamar, all right, we're setting that up. We're empty because Joe likes it 5 wide. We're going to get him to the trip side, right about here, okay? And all that's going to happen, talk about again. Now we've got him inside. We talked about before, in the slot. So we're going to have all 3 elements of this here. He's in the slot, he's in motion, and first we're going to attack behind the line of scrimmage. This is going to be a screen, all right? So all we're talking about here is we've got what still kind of looks like a man-to-man look, even though that's not ideal. This is Roquan Smith. This is a linebacker. Not ideal to have him lined up across from Jamar Chase, no matter what we're talking. And I know we've got safety help over the top over here, but we're running a screen here if we're the Bengals, okay? So it's very simple. 1, 1, right out here with the screen. All right, it's going to be quick. Joe identifies the defense. We've got the screen called, and essentially what you have with Jamar behind the line of scrimmage. This is level 1, behind the line of scrimmage, screens, we're making plays after the catch. All we're talking about is if these 2 guys get blocked up, which they do, we've got Jamar outrunning a linebacker, first of all, and he's going to get right in between here. And then just like we talk about with running backs, and he's got a running back level of after the catch ability, all of a sudden we talk about him one-on-one down there with a free safety. You know what you call this play? A 70-yard house call. It's exactly what happened, right? So you're talking about behind the line of scrimmage, after the catch, you can get him the ball back here, and he's essentially a running back with the ball in his hands. All right, next, we talk about the short game, right? And mixing things up. Let's get beyond the line of scrimmage. Let's still make some plays after the catch. And let's talk about what Jamar can do for you. All right. Now, where do we have him? Here, in the slot. Again, we're going the other way about it now. You know where we're going to go to? Into the backfield. You know, we talk about Deebo Samuel, right? Playing in the backfield, a player like that, a guy who has that running back ability. Okay, but what I want you to notice, too, with the defense as a whole, all right, we're going to get this quarter shell, this cover 4 shell out here. Obvious. 4 over the top, 3 underneath, right? And when I show this next shot, what you're going to notice about those 7 guys I just pointed out there, the back 7 in this defense, nobody moved. Nobody moved. So it's not only about Jamar and getting Jamar open. This is the tell for Joe Burrow. Man or zone tell, right? And seeing, obviously, he's going to read the safeties. He's going to see what kind of defense we're in. Still showing that same cover 4 shell. Okay, point it out again here. There's the umbrella. Here's my 3. Jamar gets into the backfield, which should send off, alarms where it's like, okay, what are we doing here with Jamar Chase and what's going on? And yet nobody moved, and we're just going to stay in the same base defense. So Burrow now, arguably the best pre-snap processor in the game, has a free read of the defense. All that's going to happen, going to get an in route up top here. You're going to get Jamar in this little circle, and because he knows too, keep in mind, it's not just Burrow reading the defense, it's Chase reading the defense as well. Basically has an option route out of the backfield. Think about guys like Alvin Kamara doing it so well, right? Or a Jahmyr Gibbs or Christian McCaffrey with these option routes. They get zone coverage like this. He's going to sit down here. What happens? He catches the ball at 5. He takes it for 15 plus after the catch. Again, the ability to work short to long to create explosive plays and make plays after the catch. Now, there's 4 levels to this. We're through 2 of them. Now we go intermediate. This is a classic Bengals formation, all right? We've got the bunch up top, out here on this up top, okay? We've got T. Higgins down here solo by himself. Chase all the way at the top is the Z up here. He's going to come across the formation, all right, with Higgins. He's going to stack up with Higgins here. Now, pre-snap, pretty simple. This is actually kind of a classic, again, foundational Bengals kind of formation. Bunch left, Jamar up top. Can't get press coverage on him because he's in a bunch. T by himself. We'll get to T. Higgins later. Here we go. Now, they're by themselves down here. I shouldn't say by themselves, but T and Chase they're together, right? And this creates a problem. Again, remember what I told you before about when you have 2 guys as good as T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the same side of the field, you really can't play man coverage. Your defense isn't structured to do that. You can't bring your 2 best. You're not usually going to bring your 2 best corners to the same side of the field. So unless you have an elite nickel, somebody like, a Cooper DeJean for the Eagles, let's say, right? You're talking about now we know we're in zone coverage. Burrow knows it. Single high out here. What are we going to get? We're going to get something called a dagger, okay? And we want to open up Jamar with the motion and with the coverage. Dagger. That's when T. Higgins here is going to get vertical. Both of these deep guys are going to go with him, right? And the problem is, the second part of this, You get this deep 15-yard in cut right in here. And you get Jamar open in all this space, right? So it's not only that they're really good, but it's also that everybody knows what their role is in beating zone coverages in the defense, both Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. This is now the intermediate level. We've got 3 levels to this thing, right? Last one. Talk about again. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about, okay, T. Higgins being solo one-on-one, but at the end of the day, Jamar Chase is also special because he can beat anybody anytime in a one-on-one situation. So this is against Pittsburgh, heavy man coverage team. Now I'm going to talk about tells in the defense again, okay? Jamar down here to the bottom. Again, we don't have T. Higgins on the field. I believe that's Mike Gesicki up top solo. Fine, but same formation. We've got 3 down here, pretty tight to the right. We've got 1 solo up top. Jamar is now going to go outside the numbers by himself, okay? Up top, we're talking about man-to-man coverage. Now, is it a straight just follow from the corner? Sort of. We're going to kind of bump this out. I'll explain this on the next slide. Cam Sutton, who I previously circled here, he comes into the slot because he's the slot guy. The outside corner that was on Gesicki comes out. But either way, the idea is, I mean, look, simple. Tied at the hip, man-to-man coverage. That's all we're looking for here, right? And if you get this, especially look at where the free safety is playing. Joe Burrow knows he doesn't have to go through any whole big progression. Listen. I've got Jamar Chase one-on-one with somebody not named Sauce Gardner or Patrick Surtain. We're taking that chance. We'll read it, either the go ball or the back shoulder. It's too easy, right? That's when it seems like, okay, how are the Bengals so good when their offense isn't all that complicated? And, you know, you're talking about a team with not a whole lot of balance, right? But they're scoring 30 points every week. This is how. You've got great players. You've got Jamar Chase, who's the absolute joker in this offense, who can beat you at any level, in any formation, and they're motioning him into better situations now for Burrow and him both to get a look at the defense. It's almost impossible to defend when 2 guys are that talented and they're that in sync when it comes to beating the coverages.
So paying Jamar Chase was obvious, right? He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, just won the Triple Crown this past year in the NFL. Paying T. Higgins was not as obvious for most people. Many people thought they had to let go of T. Higgins, let him go to another team, and pay Jamar Chase and pay other guys for Cincinnati. Why was it important to not only give Jamar Chase a $100 million contract, but also give T. Higgins a $100 million contract?
So the obvious is that, okay, you prevent teams from doubling Jamar Chase every single play, right? Because early in the season when T. Higgins was hurt, that's what you saw is Jamar had one of the highest double team rates, and maybe even the highest double team rate in the league last season when T. Higgins, the games that he was out, right? So even if you have all of those looks with Jamar moving around the formation, all of that, if you only have him as your only credible threat, you're talking about, okay, double team him, just make anybody else beat us. The difference is when T. Higgins is healthy and he's on the field, when that anybody else is T. Higgins, you have a serious problem, right? Because this is I would argue, a top 15 receiver in this league and somebody who deserves the money that he got. Why? He wins one-on-one situations, and that's all you're asking for is somebody else who can win individual matchups when Jamar is either doubled or maybe he's off the field or just in a separate part of the formation, right? Look at this. This is in T. Higgins' career, 5 years of his career. 16th in the NFL in career receiving grade against single coverage since 2020. 12th in receptions, 14th in yards, 9th in touchdowns. And this down here is the big part, okay? First, most contested targets in the NFL, 6th in contested catches. Now, does that sound great as far as a rate? No, but I think what it speaks to is not only T's ability. Look, we know he's 6'5", and he's really athletic at 6'5", right? So you would expect, okay, he's going to win a lot of these contested situations. But it also speaks to Joe Burrow's ability to trust him, right? I think that's the big thing is, okay, anytime I don't feel comfortable for any reason throwing to Jamar on said play, because you can't throw it to him every single play, even though you might want to, we trust T. Higgins enough, right, to be able to get him, even if he's not that open, because T. Higgins at 6'5", with his wingspan and his body control and his ability to catch the football, he may not be open, but he's always open, right? Especially one-on-one. And these are the moments that you want to talk about is those single coverage moments. So, one more thing. What kind of routes are we running against single coverage? Easy. Go balls. You want to press up? Take off on you. Squeeze in a little bit inside. I got a 90 receiving grade on out routes. Curl routes, if you're playing off, cool. In, slants. These are the type of isolated routes that you're going to run with T. Higgins. If he's on the backside of the formation by himself, especially that X receiver that you talk about is out there by himself, this is where Higgins wins. So, simple, very simple. We'll remember this play. This is in overtime against the Denver Broncos this year. This is not a hard read, right? We're looking at it. Man-to-man coverage across the board, right? It's simple. Here's the one high safety. Man, 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 man. Not hard. One of these linebackers are both going to blitz, so the back's kind of out of it. He's going to protect. But this is not complicated football here. This is just, listen, our guys are better than yours. And the big part of this is even in man-to-man coverage, so the safety, I just want to point out too, here's Jamar Chase, okay? Safety's clearly leaning on Chase, right? This is Patrick Surtain. Okay, fine. That's one of the few guys where it's a relatively even battle when it comes to, if I'm going to play somebody man-to-man on Jamar Chase, Patrick Surtain's a guy. The problem is, and we saw it in this game, I think it's Riley Moss, this is not Patrick Surtain. How many corners in the league, Max, would you tell me you feel comfortable covering T. Higgins, press man, one-on-one? How many can do it?
Not many.
4, 5?
Yeah.
Surtain, Stingley, Sauce, right? Guys like that? No. Joe sees this preset. He already knows. The rest of, I could drop the rest of this play. It doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Why? Because all I need is this. That's all I need. It's that simple. One-on-one, when you have a guy who's 6'5" and one of the 15 best receivers in the league, and their best corner, Surtain, is not on him, football's simple. It's funny because football, the simplest parts of football are the things that Joe Burrow and these receivers process well. Here we go again. Okay, simple. We're an off man this time, right? Blitz look. Jamar in the slot, again, want to point that out again. We talk about him being able to move around, but this is the two elements I'm looking for with Chase and Higgins. Jamar's in the slot. He's with the formation. Higgins, the big monster, way out here by himself. That makes sense. Off man, here's what's going to happen. Still in man-to-man coverage, just playing off because, well, this is the Bengals and the Panthers with their defense last year should be very afraid of the Bengals. Man-to-man. Even with this being J.C. Horn, that's their best player. Cool. Same thing. Single high, cover one. And everything you're going to look at here is Burrow, all he's going to read is either Chase into the slant, but this linebacker's going to drop off. The safety's there, and we're man here. So I got 3 guys. I've got basically triple coverage on Jamar Chase. Well, I still have one-on-one with T. Higgins. So I'm living. Easy. Horn wants to bail, because we've seen before, he'll take off on the go ball if he played too far up. This is 3rd and 5. We run a 12-yard curl. First down. Sometimes it's simple. If they're up, take them over the top. If they're back, take the curl. Fine, we're going to read it. When you have chemistry like these guys have had, Burrow and Higgins, we forget, they've already been playing together for 5 years. These are things, they don't need to talk about it. They just give that old wink of the eye or whatever at the line of scrimmage, whatever sign that like Aaron Rodgers used to give Devontae Adams. Same exact thing, right? This is when you talk about 2 veterans getting involved. Last thing here, creating one-on-ones in the red zone, all right? Same thing. We're in man-to-man coverage. Here. Linebackers got the back. Cool. Pressed up on the tight end here. Fine. Okay, what you're going to get now, I talked about Jamar Chase in motion before and creating matchups and even spacing in zone looks for him. We're going to get T motioning down here. 2 things it does. What's going to happen? 1, get T out there out wide by himself, right? 2, coverage read. Just in case Joe Burrow was any less than 100% on what the coverage was, corner's going to follow him in the slot here all the way outside. What does that mean? I know we have man-to-man coverage. Now we look at T. This is a play they love down in the red zone. They use this anytime they get down in the red zone. So now we've got T. We got the follow from the corner. Simple. Man-to-man coverage now. This linebacker's got the back. Something they like to run a lot in Cincinnati. Slant flat. Something that high school coaches run. It's something Joe Burrow's been running since he was probably 13 years old, right? Simple. We're in man. T. Higgins. Create the space. Slant. When the back goes to the flat, the linebacker's going to clear out. You have this big window of space, and for some reason in this defense, they had the bracket on Andre Iosivas with the double team, which, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That giant window of space, knowing you have man-to-man, knowing T. Higgins with his size, with his route running, can win that battle and just work into that space. That's what makes the Bengals offense so good. The ability for both of these guys, first of all, for Jamar Chase's versatility to create the looks that they want, and second, for both of them to be able to win one-on-one matchups in the red zone, vertically, underneath, wherever you want them to. And the fact that you have this guy right here, that makes you happy, having a guy like Joe Burrow right there. Maybe the best pre-snap processor in football, that makes this process so much easier.
And it's so critical nowadays in the NFL to have multiple weapons that you really scare a defense. And I wanted to look at some stats, Dalton, that really separate what the Bengals look like with T. Higgins and without T. Higgins. So T. Higgins has missed 10 games over the last 2 years due to injuries. Without T. Higgins in those 10 games, they are 20th in receiving grade, 17th in EPA per pass. In all the other games with T. Higgins, 5th best receiving grade, 9th in EPA per pass. So yes, Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Yes, Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. T. Higgins is still incredibly valuable to this offense because you need multiple weapons nowadays in the NFL that scare a defense. It's not just a luxury in the NFL to have multiple top, flight receivers. It's a necessity in the NFL to have multiple top flight receivers. So they locked up Jamar Chase. They locked up T. Higgins. Maybe Trey Hendrickson next. We'll see with Cincinnati, but at least they got 2 of the 15 best receivers in the NFL locked up on 4-year deals in Cincinnati.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.